We're back. It's the Good Contractor Podcast. Luke is here. I'm here. The gang's all back together again. It's exciting. I had to do a couple of these solo, and I don't know. It gets lonely sometimes when Luke's not there to tell me.
You're carrying the weight.
Well, you're not here to tell me like, oh, that was really bad. Like what you're doing is not good. Stop it. I'll jump in here.
In the meantime, you may have developed an ego and you need to be put back in your place.
Exactly. This is why I'm so glad we're back together, because I was getting too confident in my own abilities. Okay. And we're back. It is the Good Contractor Podcast. I'm psyched because I may be addicted to watching this guy's videos just because I want to see from what locale he's coming in from next, or what roof he's coming in from next. That is Brandan Sirrine, the solar goat, as he is better known. Brandan, how are you, sir? Thank you so much for joining us.
Dude, I'm doing fantastic. I just walked off a roof a few minutes ago, come over to my shop to have a fantastic podcast with you guys, and I couldn't be more excited for some good conversation.
I want to start with this because, so I know you're in Salt Lake City in Utah, beautiful Utah. I've told you that I would like to come visit every corner of that state. That's on the bucket list. But so I know that before you were doing this, you were doing accounting. So before I get to the accounting part, I want to get to the very, very beginning, and that is, obviously you didn't grow up dreaming about doing solar because you were doing accounting, but growing up, like what were the aspirations of what you kind of wanted to do professionally?
A lot of that came down to what I was told by other people and like where they found their success. And this might be relatable for some people, but I was told you needed to go to college and you needed to get a college degree and you needed to get yourself a desk job, or you were going to be more or less a failure, or you weren't going to make good money, or you weren't going to be successful in life.
Yeah, so that is something that is a common theme, as you probably can imagine on this podcast, is that, and just interviewing Jared Kaufman and Landon Nortune from Kaufman Construction, same deal. It's like, oh, everyone needs to go to college. Everyone needs to go to college. So how did you find yourself from going to that? Was it college and then accounting job? I guess, is that kind of the path you took?
Yeah, right. I was working accounts payable, going to night classes, and just going to pursue that career on that side of business. Doing payroll. Maybe work my way up once I finished schooling, and kind of was set on doing that.
But you tell this story, because I've been wanting you to tell this to Luke, because I've heard you tell this on one other podcast, but I love this. A friend comes to you and goes, "Hey man, you got to get into solar." Is that how that went? Like, yeah. Did he literally walk down by your desk and tell you that?
Well, so after work one day, I just finished, working and counting all day, bored out of my mind, like just typing in numbers. I knew from the beginning I hated the job. It wasn't for my personality. And then I went to school afterwards and did night classes. And then finally, when I have a few minutes for downtime for myself, I go over to my friend's house, and he comes up to me and he's like, "Dude, I just got a new job." He's like, "There's this program where homeowners can buy solar panels and pay for the electricity that they produce rather than paying the power company for electricity." And it's like the classic door-to-door spill for like, why get solar panels on your house, save all this money, all that shenanigans. Sure. Another conversation. Sure. But I was hooked. Like I knew I was really interested in technology. Like I always liked the latest phone, the latest gadget, this and that. And so I think solar sucked me in from like the technology standpoint. And I was not happy with what I was doing. And I was like, fuck it. So I quit my job. I walked out.
I love this.
And then I drove down to Arizona to interview with this guy to talk about whatever this solar witchcraft, use sunlight to produce electricity going on thing. So.
Can I pause real quick? And then I know Luke's got questions, but I just want to pause real quick. What was going through your mind when you're like, screw this, I'm leaving and I'm like on the car ride? This is the part I wanted to ask you, because I heard you tell this story and you go, yeah, and then I drove down to do an interview. Like there was kind of that moment of, I don't have anything lined up. Like, that took some stones to be like, okay, you know what? I'm just gonna go do this solar thing. Like, what was going through your mind when you made that call?
Yeah, I got overconfidence with the full send, and like that might be like rooted into like my success. But I didn't have a second where I was like, oh no, what did I do? I was just happy. I was like, I'm excited. This is a great opportunity. Let's go.
That's usually not the accounting mindset. I mean, you said accounting maybe wasn't right for you, but usually like overconfidence and full send is not what you want your accountant to be saying. You know, like they're the ones that are kind of walking you back when you're like, no, we got this. And they're like, well, hold on now. I'm looking at the chart of accounts.
Yeah.
And I see that we in fact don't got this.
Yeah.
So did you start right into sales? Because I mean, it strikes me like I've known you for 2 seconds and I've seen like 1.5 of your Instagrams. So like did you walk right into like, hey, I'm selling, like I'm now going door to door, or like how did you get in?
Yeah. So I went down and like to complete this story, I went down and interviewed and then didn't get the job.
Oh my God.
Sorry, that's really good.
And then it was sales. I didn't know what I was getting myself into. And it was a door-to-door sales position for Solar City. Just knocking doors, telling people about Sunlight Makes Electricity. And yeah, so I come back to Utah. At that point, I was a little bit like, what am I doing here? And oddly enough, a few days later, my car broke down. Throw another curveball in there. And I was just timing. I had my car as close to where I lived, where I dropped it off to get fixed. And I was just walking home and I see some guy up on the craziest 1212 roof, just like installing solar panels, just a couple blocks away from my house. And at that point, I'd done a little bit of research about what a panel was, what the different electronics were. And I walk up to him, I'm like, whoa, are those microinverters or power optimizers? He gets off his ladder, walks all the way down. He's like, you want a job? I was like, yeah, I do want a job.
Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Wow.
And so that's how and that was more of a design sales position. It wasn't so heavy in the door-to-door. It was more understanding how these components go together and how they're engineered and designing systems.
What happened from there? So was that your job? Sorry, Luke. Was that the next, like, did you stick with this particular person that you asked and that you walked up to? Yeah, that person ended up being my mentor for more or less the next 5 years and business partner after that, and taught me everything I know on the back side of like how these systems work, how they're designed and all of that, which kind of gives me a really good foundation for doing what I'm doing now, is because I actually have all the understandings there.
That's really cool.
Awesome.
So you started, did you install anything? Were you up there?
I didn't for the first 5 years. For the first 5 years, it was just designing cells, doing net metering, submitting, things like that.
Poser.
Yeah.
Dude, come on. These crews out here. This is, I'm going to take a complete left turn, but John, I saw a video on TikTok the other day because I watch way too much TikTok and Reels. And it was these guys shingling, and the premise was how fast they were shingling. And I thought, that's not even fast. Like, I'm 40 and fat, and I could be up there shingling faster than that, and I will be. I will do it. So I'm going to get up on the roof. But the point is, lots of times people either come in the sales side, or they come in the like install kind of like operation, like let's just say the install. Like you're either working on a crew and you move up, or you're working in sales and you realize like, oh, I don't need to be selling these for other people. I could just do this myself or something. You started like interestingly in the middle. Like at least maybe solar is a lot different, but I just don't know. I've never really heard of people kind of starting in the kind of like the planning production side of something, you know what I mean? And that's very interesting. Like from other people in the space, like, is that common in solar, or was that kind of an outlier position that you found yourself in?
I think it's an outlier position, not to mention installing solar panels. Like, I don't want to be like, it's the hardest trade, but it's a brutal job. And so most people that are fit for doing cells, they would not enjoy nor be able to do the install side of things.
Okay.
Right.
Interesting. Yeah, you got to move on the roof like a goat. I'm imagining that's that's the pun embedded in solar goat.
Yes.
Is that you're able to walk on we'll call it steep roofs, but also you happen to be the greatest of all time, which explains why you started in planning. No one starts there. Or I say planning, design, etc. So let me ask you this, because I'm interested in solar. Elon Musk tweeted no less than a week ago that we could run this whole country on solar. It'd take up a little piece of Arizona or Nevada or something. We have enough power. It could be done. That solar is just getting so much better quickly. And then I saw a bunch of people in there relatedly saying, you're insane. What do you know about anything? We need nuclear power, et cetera, et cetera. So I'm curious, not for you to necessarily weigh in on this whole argument, but solar is like it's a big, it seems to be growing. It's getting more popular. More people know about it. How much better has it gotten since you've kind of been in it? Not as a business, but as like a source of power. Like, is it a lot better? Like, are you seeing it improving constantly? Like, what do you see from the inside of solar that me not knowing anything that I don't know about?
Okay, two parts to that. The first is going to be the solar panels themselves. Like when I started designing, we had like low 200 watt panels. Now we have 500 watt panels. But there's a catch.
Okay.
They just made the panels bigger. So it's like, so there's a catch there. So there's some marketing going around where they're like, we got 500 watt panels now. And you're like, you want to see how large that thing is? It's massive. So the solar panels themselves really aren't getting that much better. Like maybe a little bit, the efficiency's going up, but they're kind of peaked. Where I've seen the technology advancements has been with the battery technology, because what we're not looking at is just how complicated it is to have a stable microgrid. We just go and we turn on electricity and we pull whatever we want, and the grid is always stable. Most areas always stable, and you can use that electricity. When it comes to like having a microgrid where you have your own power system on your home, it's actually extremely complicated to be able to run different loads, have the stability, no dimming lights, no power outage, no weird things going on. And so when I first started, the grid tied battery solutions they're terrible. You know, you maybe had 20, 30 amps of backup. Now we have these really good transfer switches that are extremely sophisticated with like these large battery systems. And we're getting to the point where it's like more and more feasible to have kind of your own independent microgrid to run, say, 70 to 80% of your loads without any usage from the utility.
That's really interesting.
That is interesting, because I'm glad Luke asked that, because I drive around and see it all the time on people's homes, and I'm wondering that same question of like, okay, how far have we come in 6 months, 6 years, whatever. And so let me ask you about, speaking of, so this person becomes your mentor. You start on the design side. When did you first get up on a roof? And talk about how that you and I were talking about that apparently on a roof is where you also learn how to say 4-letter words, because that's when I'm doing projects, that's where I also say 4-letter words.
Yeah, absolutely. So I wanted to get into social media. And so I sold a job, and I was like, hey, I'm going to bring my camera out. I'm going to come out with the guys. I want to film a little bit, get some footage, get some content for the website, start posting some higher quality content behind the scenes. And I showed up with the guys, got up on the roof, and I was like, I'm out of sales. I'm done instantly. As soon as I got on the roof and got like hands-on and saw the technology that I've been, designing and selling, and saw how it all went together, I was immediately addicted. So from there, I want to go installs. But yeah, being on the roof, like we get all 4 seasons in Utah. Like it's over 100 degrees in the summer and it's below freezing. And that's definitely where I learned how to swear. Like I call it my roof mouth. I didn't have a roof mouth until I climbed up that ladder.
Yeah. Have you learned how to swear in multiple languages yet?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
I was gonna say, I learned that same lesson on the roof, because my dad owned a roofing business, so I grew up roofing houses. Okay. I don't know. I've roofed a lot. Hence, like I was talking all that crap about shingling fast, but that started working with a bunch of Mexican dudes, and like my wife was a Spanish teacher. So she like learned Spanish, like, you know, she learned it in school, and then she like went and lived in Bolivia for a while, and like her Spanish is excellent. Whereas mine was, I thought I was like getting along fine, and I just talked the way everyone I knew spoke in Spanish. And then we would like go to a restaurant, and I would just like say hi to like the waitress, and she would like, I just remember her face going white, and she's like, "You can't say that to people." And I mean, what do you mean? I just said like, "What's up?" She's like, "No, that's not. You basically said like, 'What's up, bitch?'" And I was like, well, I just was saying hi the only way I know how to say hi, because that's how everyone says hi where I come from.
There is no this is the most Luke story of any Luke story.
Yeah, that's just how it went. And I realized that I only knew how to say the most horrific things in Spanish, that like every standard phrase that I knew was like not gonna fly in the real world that was not on top of a roof. But no, that's awesome. And I tell you what, that brings me back to is like, interesting. I still don't know how you found accounting. That's just its own interesting thing. But it's like there is a satisfaction. Designing things is interesting and satisfying. It's like an interesting problem. Selling things, you're talking to people, you're engaged. You know what I mean? Like it's like relational. Like there's a lot of that's interesting about that. But there's something extremely satisfying about actually building something. Like you make something and you walk away at the end of the day, or like, you know, installing it, and it's like, oh, these panels weren't here, this whole system didn't exist, and now I'm done at the end of the day or the week or whatever, and it does exist. We put it together, it works, it's delivering power to them. Like, is that, it sounds like that's like we almost coming back around from the design, from the sales, back to kind of like, I don't know, almost like I say the ground, which is not the right term because you're on the roof, but like coming back to that, like this is concrete. We actually did something. Like, how is that what got you addicted to it? Like what was the experience that you were like, oh, this is why I'm here?
No, I really like that, because there is something extremely satisfying to like just putting your head down and working hard all day long, and then having that moment when you look back at it and you're like, I did that. Like that's here. It wasn't here a couple hours ago. And there's another side of that is I've installed and been a part of installations of like thousands of systems. Every time I go and I turn it on and it turns on, I'm like, oh, it worked. This actually works. It took sunlight and made electricity. This isn't fake. Like, you know, it's like amazing too. Like I'm still like impressed by the fact that we can actually do this. And that kind of wraps me into the next part of my journey too, is because I got into repair and maintenance, and that's mainly my day-to-day is fixing solar panel systems. I was talking to this gentleman who owns a reputable company near me the other day, and he was like, you know what I like about repair and maintenance is like it's the fastest way to install 10 kilowatts of solar. And I was like, oh, no way. You have a 10 kilowatt system that's not working. I can show up and do whatever, an hour service call, 3 hour service call, fix that system and get it back online. There's a lot of satisfaction there. And I found a lot of satisfaction in not just throwing things away, not just wasting things, like refurbishing things, keeping things working, and having a lot of respect for like older vehicles and older things that still work.
It fits with like the ethos of solar. I mean, like the idea that like you're trying to be resourceful and not, you know, like you're burning gasoline. Like I'm not particularly religious about this in general, but you're just reusing it. Like it's like, oh yeah, you could just throw this thing away and be done with it, rather than I don't know, getting it back and running for people. And I imagine people are pretty, like, you're getting the other side of that where people are very happy. Like when they have something that's broken, you show up and fix it. And instead of being like, oh, do we need a whole new thing? Like, you know, what do we need to do here? And it's like you're there for a couple hours and then they're back online. Like, that's got to be pretty satisfying. And more satisfying, I would say, or just more frequent than installing a whole new system. I mean, it's like, are you still out on the daily? In fact, I can tell you are, because I'm looking at your Instagram, and it's like you're not. Very few of them are you sitting wherever you're sitting now, like you're out doing stuff, which tells me that you're still doing this. Like, are you just like a one-man show out fixing these systems? Do you have other people working with you? Like, what does it look like on your day-to-day?
Yeah, running pretty lean, but spending 8 hours at least each day on the roof. And that's kind of by choice. Like if I wanted to be the guy sitting at the computer, making the calls and stuff like that, I just don't really enjoy that side of business.
Mm-hmm.
And so I have those tasks taken care of by someone else. And then I choose to spend the majority of my time like on the site, on the roof, fixing the things, filming content. And that's made me like happier, enjoy my job, more.
Here's what I think is really cool. Because we were just having this conversation amongst our team, just talking about like, we just interviewed the Kaufman construction guys. We're talking about no older than 25 years old, and we're seeing a lot of a new generation taking over. But what I think is super cool about what you've already shared with us is you're doing things in a different way than people have done it in the past, which to me is the key to any generation putting their own stamp on something. Like you got into solar when you were an accountant, you got into solar on a roof and you spent the first 5 years doing design and sales. You got on a roof because you wanted to do social. So you're coming at it from these different angles. So I want to go back to the social part. What made you at that moment go, okay, I want to do social media? Was it just that, hey, this looks cool, it'd be fun to create? Was there the monetary aspect? Was it a lot of different things, which I assume, like anything, it's a combination of things? What was it about? You're like, I'm going to get on this roof because I want to film some content.
At that time, it was the marketing is, I wanted to have like really clean images that I could present to customers, showcase our work, say we do a good job. This is what we do different. And I was very interested. The whole short form social media videos came a couple years later after that. But yeah, that time all marketing. Like I wanted clean content.
I'm curious, like, because when I see your Instagram, you've got, call it, I don't know, I want to say it was like 120K or something, like followers. How much has that made a difference, like in a sense locally, like being trusted, having a great name locally, versus is it more broadly in the solar industry? Because I guess my assumption is that that's more people doing solar daily are more interested in that. And I'm wondering if that has made a big difference just in your ability to get the next customer in Utah.
Yeah. So what I like about social, and this is something I might be a little bit more abstract, some assumptions that I'm making, is that I close the deal before I even pick up the phone. Because the best resume you can have, you can say, oh, I'm the best contractor. I do the best work. I have all these crews. We do all these jobs. If you have a social media account that goes back 500 videos of you fixing people's installations and a customer sees that, there's no other conversation to be had. Like you already have.
Why do you think that is? Why do you think that is?
Just the credibility. It's like you can walk up to anybody's house and say talk the big talk. You're going to do the best project. They have a portfolio of 500 jobs you've repaired.
I'm using you as this has become a customer interview now.
Okay.
Hi, welcome to CompanyCam.com.
Yeah. If you mind filling out this 400-point questionnaire.
Absolutely.
No, but we're running on this idea that that building trust is the most important thing. And as you were saying that, you said credibility, which I think credibility and trust are like that far apart, or maybe are the same thing half the time. But the idea that like by you showing, like proving that you've done the work, you've put in the time, and then the beauty of social media is like it's not just a picture of a solar panel, which like we've all seen one, but we don't really know anything about. We don't know what good looks like or whatever. But what I'm imagining is people watch you up there, you're explaining what's wrong, you're explaining how you're doing it, you're talking about it, you're personable, and it's clear that you know what you're doing, that they can trust you, they can trust you if they call you to solve their problem. And we're over here talking about a product that we're making called Trusty. And I've been telling our team, like, I want to own the portfolio, that's the way I would say it here, is that, like, but the premise is that, like, we want to help everyone using Company Cam be able to output this beautiful portfolio of their work in a sense automatically that they can easily share around, and both in terms of like the kind of, we took these nice photos of finished work, but also the idea that you can put these social media style videos on there. And basically what I've been saying is, like, we need to give them the thing that accomplishes what you're doing with Instagram, that they can hand all of their customers. Like, they can just text it to them and they can make their own. It's almost like a little mini social media experience of their work, because it's hard to, like, you can do that on Instagram, and the beauty of Instagram is this massive distribution, and like everyone's got the app on their phone, they can all look at it. But the way that you described that was just like exactly the way that I've been thinking about it, or should say we, because we're saying, like, in fact, I'm doing it right now. This industry sucks. Like, the trade across the board. The way that you find a contractor and work with them is difficult. Like, you go to Google or you ask around, and it's not like it's all completely broken, but like, if you're let's just say you're a great installer, but that you're not as personable as you are. Like, you've got to become some sort of SEO expert, or you've got to pay Home Advisor or Angie's List for leads, or you've got to, like, try to figure out all of these things that are a little bit separate from just doing great work and showing that you do great work. And our, like, vision of the future is, how do we empower our users to help them do great work? Part of using Company Cam, you do great work, document that great work, and then use that to grow your business. That's actually all you need to do, is do great work, document it, and have happy customers. And you shouldn't actually have to do, like, crazy SEO on your website, or this buying leads from buying Angie another yacht. Like, I'm sure, I don't know where she is now. Maybe they're just using her likeness and she's living in poverty somewhere off the coast of. No, I'm joking. But, like, that it just seems to me like you discovered this, maybe not before everyone, but like early on, that, like, oh, hey, we can shoot this stuff for marketing, put it on our website. But if we put it on Instagram, then everyone else can see it. And now you can show up and you can have a great sales pitch, but you almost don't need it. You don't need it because you've shown that you do the work
over and over and over and over again.
Like, when you show up, they already trust you, and that's just massive. I don't know. I don't even have a question. I just had a 5-minute rant.
No, I like where you're going with that, because this is something that I've recently come to the realization because of how my phone calls are being handled differently. Like, because my social media is only a couple years old. I haven't been doing it that long. But now I'm, like, at the point where my phone number just gets given out, and I just get calls, and they've already decided they're going with me before I give them a price. And the aspect that you're saying, I think it's the same as my social media account, is if you could send over something and say, here, you have this repair that needs done. Here's the last 10 repairs that I've done in your area that I was able to successfully fix. I would be a great choice for getting this work done. Something along those lines. It's easy. It's less words, and it's all photos and videos. What tells the whole story.
Wow.
Yeah, and I think the more, like, what the ability, or just, I say the ability, like, I do think you're good at it. Like, well, you clearly know what you're doing with the solar, but I think you're also good at the social media. And a lot of people, like, I don't actually think it's as much of a talent as it is just like an overcoming the fear, like, and just doing it. Just like, oh, I'm just going to take this video. I'm going to explain it. I'm going to do it. But that's really hard for a lot of people. And you seem to have figured that out. I don't know, let's call it a few years before a lot of other people did, or maybe, I don't even know. Maybe it was like right on time, and then you're just better at it, that you've got like followers and you're able to like keep this thing going. But yeah, I don't know.
I think it goes back to the overconfidence for the full send.
There you go. No,
It's like, and that's what I've always thought of, is like, if you're going to bet on anything, bet on yourself. And like, it is hard to put yourself out there and to get all the criticism, all the hate, all the people coming at you, whether they're jealous or they have an actual legit critique or this or that. It's like tough, but like, bet on yourself.
Hey, I got a few haters on the internet for the same, the amount of, they said the number one thing on our videos is people making fun of my mustache. That's like the number one comment we get, is basically, look at this moron or whatever. But it is, I don't know, people, look, I'm not losing any sleep over it. Let's say that.
Yeah.
But that willingness to do the next thing, I think your whole like life, in a sense, I don't even know what it was before this. Like what it sounds like was probably like snowboarding and, maybe surfing if they got that in Utah. But like,
no, there's Luke, there's no oceans in Utah.
Yeah, but like Utah people are industrious. I bet my ass there's a fake wave there that you can surf from a giant ass machine.
You're not wrong.
No, I've been to Utah, dude. Utah, it's like what if Colorado had good people in it? Then it would be Utah.
Oh, wow.
I like dishing on Colorado from time to time. You know what, Colorado? Shut up. That's right. You think you're cool with all those mountains, and we're over here in flat land? What about Utah? Utah's better than you are.
We have bluffs. But anyway, keep going.
Yeah,
Keep
there's
going.
there's sand and hills in Nebraska.
Yeah. Great golf courses.
But like,
keep going.
It's this willingness to say, okay, I don't actually know, but I'm going to figure it out. I'm going to yell at this guy on a roof and just start a conversation with him about solar. That's going to go into this. I'm just going to start shooting videos. I'm going to guess that you weren't like an expert videographer when you jumped up on the roof to start shooting these videos that turned into the social media thing. But there is this willingness to do the next thing, even when you might embarrass yourself. You might and you probably will to a degree. Like, I'm betting if you go back and you watch, like, I don't know, the first few that you did, they're just not as good or as, hadn't like fully landed in your lane the way you have now. But like, if you were, I don't know, giving advice, let's say someone let's just say someone with an office job who thinks, okay, I'm not looking forward to waking up every day, going to this office and working. Like, what would you tell those people in terms of doing anything else? Doesn't have to be solar, but like, is this a thing where you've given people advice?
Oh, that's interesting. I like thinking about that. There's a lot of my friends who have desk jobs, and they've thought about, hey, mate, could I start social media? Could I do this? Could I get a job change up? So I've had some of those conversations where I've given advice in the past, but like, my biggest thing is like, there's like, life's too short and there are so many opportunities out there. If you're unhappy where you're at, that's your own fault. Go find a new opportunity, put yourself out there, and, just see what comes from it.
You hear that, John? There's still time for you.
Oh, man.
You don't have to hate showing up for this podcast with me. You could just go start, I don't know.
You know what? It's a great point. I'm out of here, and that's, we're done.
You just hear his headset smash on the other side. So we're not even wearing those actual big headsets that you can throw like a football coach.
I can't
It's just John's AirPods go flying.
Ding, 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 ding. No, I was going to ask, doing repair, I'm assuming you've seen one of my favorite, well, I should say this is like a leading question because I've seen some of your videos, but I love the ones where you get up on a roof to fix something and you're like, here's what you don't do. And it's a little bit of like, what in the hell is this? How often are you just blown away by a shortcut taken or somebody installing something improperly? I mean, I'm sure you have some doozies in terms of stories of shit you've discovered on roofs.
Yeah, one of the problems about my content is a lot of times when I have the worst installs, there's active lawsuits and I can't post about them. So I wish I could show the worst of the worst ones, but those don't make the channel. But yeah, and that's kind of a game plan that I have is repair and maintenance. There's a lot of reasons why I got into that, but I've been dedicating my life to removing solar panels off of houses for the last 3 years. And every single time I remove a solar panel system, I get to see exactly what failed and what did not fail. And the value of that information, and like I've been tracking that through Company Camp, where I do leak tests, I do this test, I take a photo of everything that failed on the roof and piling that together. It makes great content for social media. I think the best way to learn about something is to take it apart and to like just yeah.
What are the like what are the most common, like there, I don't know, 1, 2, 3, what are the things that you see that you're like, this is what usually fails, or it didn't have to be this way, without getting yourself into legal trouble, but like what does go wrong, whether it's with install, with the material, like what do you see regularly?
Yeah, I think people would be concerned about maybe electrical fires. And that might be like the first thing they think of is like those things are going to catch on fire or burn down my house or something. That's a very rare situation. And usually if that's coming up right from the get-go. Well, the majority of problems I see is how the solar panels are fastened to the roof on like a normal residential rooftop, installation. And from there, it takes a lot of skill and a lot of understanding about how homes are built, and to be able to read the engineering to know what the correct way, and the manufacturer's information for the bracket you're using, what the correct way is to install that bracket on the roof and have it not fail. And the data that I'm collecting is I think a lot of the manufacturers are wrong with how they install their brackets and how they test them, because there really isn't adequate requirements for product testing before they're put out in the field, that there's some do nots that are on the do's from the manufacturer. So that's kind of
so
view.
I mean, installing, the one thing you learn in roofing is that water runs downhill, and that if you leave any space for that water to run like into anything that you're doing, it will do that. The wind will blow wrong. It will it will happen. And I've seen it used to just be like satellite dishes. Like someone will come in and they're going to put a satellite dish on the roof and they're just going to pop 4 screws in it. And it's like, it's going to be in 3 years. That is going to, it's going to leak immediately. Then it's going to start rotting out the wood. Then it's going to, and like by the time we get to it, it's like such terrible condition that we're replacing plywood and it's leaked into your house and like you have this problem. But it's funny to me that we have this complicated, this like marvel of technology. We're doing photosynthesis here, essentially, or whatever, human photosynthesis with catching sunlight and turning it into like magic electricity and free-flowing electron. I'm just going to front as if I know how electricity works. I don't. But we're doing this whole magical thing, and what's the part we always screw up? Screwing it into the roof without the rain coming in. Like it's like that is like the number one thing that you're seeing is that, I don't know, that really is funny to me. But it's I don't know. It's one of those things that, like, let's say for me, I've done a lot of roofing. Like I can like look at something usually, or just, peek around at it and be like, this is either going to leak or it's not. Usually you just kind of, because you've seen it and you kind of know what happens and what works. But that you can have this much more sophisticated job of planning, manufacturing solar equipment, and still, let's say, be wrong on the kind of like just the installation method. And that part of it is going to hang you up. So I'm really glad you said that. That makes me feel more important. Roofing is more important.
Yeah,
and,
that's a really important aspect of it. Another thought that I had is an issue that I'm seeing is these systems are not lasting as long as the lease or the loan or the warranty of the system.
Ooh.
And that's the next thing is like, if the system was installed in a manner that it's going to last 10 years, what a liability for the homeowner. to have that on their
Yeah.
roof. And that's what I'm seeing
Hold
a
on.
lot
How
of
long
too.
was it supposed to last?
So most solar panels are warranted for like, say, 25 years. And the sales rep probably
Yeah.
came in and said, hey, this will last 25 plus years. Solar panels last forever. But it's only as good as the weakest link, if you will. Like one
I
little plastic
remember
failure.
when I was young and stupid and I would like believe things that I read in a manufacturer warranty document, or you would like be like, oh, someone figured this out, and it's like, no, the marketing department thought 25 years sounded better than 15 years, which is what the engineers were okay with. And so then they had an argument about it, and the CEO was like, it'll probably be good, we'll all be gone in 25 years. And so, I mean, this is it's so classic with shingles. Like there was this like war of like, who can make our shingles? Like, oh, these are 20-year shingles. Well, now we didn't change them, but they're 25-year shingles. Oh, we're making 30-year shingles. Oh, we're making 50-year shingles. Well, we're calling our 50-year shingles lifetime shingles, but we actually only give you a 40-year warranty. It's like this whole thing where barely anything changed. It's asphalt and little tiny rocks that are stuck to it. And all of a sudden now they're supposed to last for 50 years. And I remember we're all looking at each other going, there's no chance this is going to last for 50 years. It's just not going to make it. But my question, I have an actual good question, which is, when you finance a system like this, like my first understanding of solar was actually in the, almost like the financing side. Like I wasn't involved in the financing, but someone was just talking me through how these are sold, how they're bought, and there's like government credits and things change over time. But I know that there was a lot of financing, and that's going to be contingent on the system lasting a certain amount of time. Like if you finance a solar thing over X period of time and it lasts like half that long, are you seeing or anticipating, I don't even know, like almost like financial problems for the manufacturers or for the homeowner? Like where is this thing sort of going wrong, and where could it really go wrong in like 10 years, if that makes sense? Like what about this market is going to break?
Oh yeah, like worst scenario here, the loans for solar I don't agree with them. It's kind of a rough situation to get into. In my area specifically, there wasn't any real lease or power purchase agreements, which is another, way to get solar panels. Everyone was financing them. And the cost of electricity is pretty low here. So in order for the numbers to pencil so the customer's paying the same amount with their panels or saving money, they needed to do like a 20 to 30 year loan on their equipment. And so these loans, I don't even know what situations I'm going to come into, because I'm getting to like the 10, 15-year-old solar panel system mark in my area, where we're getting new problems as these systems are aging. But it's like being upside down in a car loan. It's like buying a lemon for full price, having this huge loan on it, and then the whole engine burning up, and you're like, what do you do? Well, you still have a loan.
I mean, I was going to say, is that on
right.
you? Because like, it's one thing to say this is a 25-year system. It's another thing to warranty it for 25 years. And I can imagine you coming in, and it all tracks at least partially to roofing for me, not perfectly, but like there becomes an argument. Like at least in roofing, it was like, oh, is this product still viable, or is it actually like totally shot and the warranty is good? And the manufacturer is usually saying, oh no, it's still fine, it's still keeping water out. Well, with your solar system, like if it's not producing electricity, like what are the degrees of broken, if this makes sense to you? Because like I'm picturing, there's one thing, like your system stops, maybe you do an hour repair and it works again. But like, how do you know when that thing is sort of shot, and who's on the hook for it? Is it the homeowner, and who, the person holding the loan? Is the manufacturer covering any of that? Like, what does that look like when that happens?
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, it's always going to fall back on the homeowner, because the installer is out of business, gone, just a sales organization who subcontracted some guy, and that's just gone. The manufacturer, sometimes if they're still in business and they still like honor the warranty, will ship out some kind of replacement parts. That does still happen, and good on the good people that keep doing that and helping customers out, at least sending some kind of replacement material so they're not out thousands of dollars. But I recently did one where I went up to the guy's house, and every single panel on his roof was getting what's called hot spots. It's essentially where the solar cells overheat. They get hot enough to like shatter the glass. It's a fire hazard.
Does that happen from not getting enough like liquid through them? Don't they have a liquid in there or something?
So like for hot spots, what happens
I thought they did.
Is like if there's a bad connection, like a solder point, electricity isn't like passing through correctly. It does this weird thing where it can pull and push and concentrate energy and create inefficiencies, and it'll just heat up. So this particular customer had all these hot spots on his solar panels. His system was total. I had to walk up and say, I'm taking every single one of these panels to the landfill because we don't have proper recycling here, and throwing them in the landfill. I have to get you all new panels. And in that situation, I think it comes down to good technicians that know what they're doing, that are willing to come out at a reasonable price and like help people out, and the homeowner. It's going to fall on those two people.
So that brings me to my next question. You've got this huge social following, but who are some people like that, you know, when you talk about people doing it right, like who out there like on social or otherwise, like who are some tradespeople, tradesmen, tradeswomen, roofers, people working in solar? Like who do you look up to?
Oh, on social media, there's a lot of people out there in I like the DIY community for solar, which is like a whole nother rabbit hole. That, you know, are showing people how to maybe do something themselves, like set up their own system, like say Will Prowse with DIY with Will Prowse does a really good job. I think back to a few of the Instagram individuals who were in construction, like say Canadian Carpenter, which is one of my original ones where I was like, oh, this guy's so cool. I want to make a channel like his, showing the tools, the methods, talking about his opinion on things. And then the original for solar was a guy named the Solar Slayer, who was like the first one to really start posting content about, you know, the solar industry specifically.
I was going to ask along with that question, but like, what are you most amazed about? Like, what do you hear from people? Is it I guess my question is, how many times people come to you like, hey, I got into solar because of you, or hey, I started this because of you, or hey, can I come apprentice? Can I come learn from you? Like, what are those types of things? Part one and part two, maybe what has surprised you the most in terms of the feedback that you've gotten from the content that you produced and how it's impacted people?
I think the best compliment I ever got was a infield trainer for a manufacturer came to me, and he goes out with different install crews all the time. And he said, he's like, you made it cool to be a solar installer. You made people like what they do and felt like it was a badass job. And that was the best compliment that I've gotten, because how I see the solar industry is it's a skilled trade. It is really difficult to do right. It's not. It's easy just to throw it up there, but if you're good at what you do, it's a really difficult, and the turnover rate's really high. So I think that individuals who are in the solar space, repairing systems and installing system, that should be a higher paying, well-respected position. That is a very difficult, dangerous job.
Answer this however you want. Speaking of it, being something you want to do right. We started this podcast with you talking about, everybody thinks you need to go to college. So what do you see right now in the way the trades are? It could be solar or otherwise, but how do you see the next generations coming up? Are there more and more people interested in joining the trades? Are there more and more people that are like, no, I don't have to go to college? What do you see from the seat that you're in right now?
I think there's a lot of people who went to college and are frustrated because they have student loans and low paying jobs they hate. That's kind of what I see from like my friend group. And like my advice to anybody is that I wish someone would have told me when I was at 19, 20, where I was like trying to figure out what I wanted to do in life, is I think the fastest way to become a millionaire, if you're like motivated by like money, is to go get into a trade, learn everything about it, and then start your own brand, start your own business. Like you will not regret that. Like, I think that is the quickest way, is like a small business ownership or brand or something like that. Can't go wrong with it.
Yeah, that's so good. Yeah, because I don't know, that story. I mean, that's what my dad did essentially. And I mean, it was was a long path to that being very successful. Like starting a roofing company. I think he started in 1984. But the thing is, like, you're in control of it, like and it's a way more responsibility. That's the thing. Like, you're installing people's roofs or putting on solar panels. Like, people are going to call you at 9:00 at night. Like, you're going to be thinking about it. You're going to be worrying about it. Like, I remember just even working there, like one of these big rains would come through or something, and you're just like worried, because you've installed 1,000 roofs, and you're like, one of these is going to leak, like that whole thing. So like, it's a bunch of responsibility, but if you're willing to take that responsibility, like that's where the opportunity is. And especially with, I think, I don't know, we've talked about it on the show before, but like kind of the over-indexing for college. There's that big narrative of like, and you said at the beginning, if you want to be successful, then you need to go to college and you need to do this thing. And I'm somewhat down on college, not completely, but like they tried to hit me up to raise money from me, and I had lunch with this poor lady who I spent like 30 minutes being like, what you're charging these kids is an outrage for their, and they did not call me back.
Erase his address from the old alumni list.
Yeah. I will no longer be recognized. But the point is that like, there's this like sort of real world, like my thing that it was always like, everyone I know was a teacher. And I think that's like a super important profession, and it's like, it's noble, and it's really hard. Like, it's just hard teaching kids all day. Like, you got to like be prepared. I don't know. It's really hard. And then you're squeezed in this giant uncaring bureaucracy, which is also really hard. You're basically squeezed from both sides. You're doing a hard job with people that don't care or respect it in a system that also doesn't really care. You have no opportunity for real, like your success is sort of just like, whatever, you don't really get rewarded for it. Anyway, shout out to all the teachers out there. The point is that it's easy to become sort of narrowly focused and not to see the broader world, and to see that there's all these other opportunities out there, and that you can go learn how to do a useful thing and then just start a business doing that thing. And that's that like YOLO, full send, I can't remember the way you described it, but it was like, I like the full send. That was what convinced me you were a snowboarder. I heard that, and I was like, he's from Utah, and he just said full send. I was like, I'm surprised he hasn't thrown his back out trying to do a 540 rodeo off the biggest kicker over at whatever the name of that little tiny pathetic mountain you guys have in Utah. No, I'm just kidding. But there is that fancy town with those mountains. Right outside of Salt Lake. What's that called?
Park City.
Help me out.
Park City, Utah.
It's one of the most beautiful places in the world. But the point is that you can just go do it. No one's going to stop you, but at the same time, no one's going to do it for you. There's no boss telling you in the morning what you need to get done and whatever else. Like, in that, there's a lot of kids, I think, that like maybe aren't like getting A's in chemistry is not what they're great at, but like, if you show them how to do a thing, or they're ready to learn, they're ready to work, and they're willing to like to get it done, especially when their name's on the line. And I think that these trades are actually on the ascendance. They're the last thing that's going to be replaced by a robot, is crawling around on a roof, diagnosing a leak and figuring out why this solar system isn't working properly, or whether it be the plumbing, the electrical, like all these trades around your house. And they're just not going anywhere for a long time. And yeah, rather than being in debt, you can be, maybe working some long hours. It's going to be hard, but in the end, like, you have a thing that's yours, that you own, that you're in control of how successful it is. And that's, I don't know, it's a cool opportunity.
And Brandon, do you know what else won't be replaced? The second thing that won't be replaced is me doing this podcast with Luke. I'd like to see a robot try that and deal with his shenanigans.
Yeah. Hey, with that attitude, we will. I think Elon Musk is doing some sort of AI robot, like, I don't know, they're having a big event talking about robots. So don't speak too soon. We might have a glass-faced, white and, just monochrome. Hi, I'm John, but with personality. Just kidding, John. It's not fair. It's not fair.
I can't wait to do this show
asymmetric
solo
warfare
as soon as possible.
You know what kills me, Brandon?
What kills you?
You know the best rated episode of this show is the one that I wasn't on. That's inexplicable. It's like the chaos of the universe is striking me back.
Hey, listen, I just let the people, they tell us what they want. It shows up in the data. Trust the data.
Man of the people.
Anyway, so Brandon, I will say this. Number one, I am such a huge fan of yours. You are, as much as I watch videos online, having worked at Company Cam, obviously doing this podcast, yours is arguably one of my absolute favorites to watch every day because it does make me want to get on a roof and do what you do. And I can't necessarily say that for every trade, that it's like, oh, I feel like with me and my personality, my skill set, that I'd want to go do that. But watching what you do, I'm like, hey, I just kind of want to hang out with them, but I'd like to hang out and learn some stuff. So I just wanted to say that. And that leads me to the question we ask everybody when we finish up is, in your mind, if you're describing what makes a good contractor, how would you describe a good contractor to somebody?
I might give a little long-winded answer on that. Something
Fire
that
away.
Full send.
I've learned is the change order game. Something that was like frustrating for me to learn as a contractor is like when you lose bids to lower bids that end up being higher bids, and how there's this tendency where I see it in my space to overpromise and then underdeliver. If you can manage that, and I've done it by having my reputation that is presented to the customer, and then not playing those games, and communicate well throughout the process. If you can like manage that, and anybody who's a contractor is going to know exactly what I'm talking about. They've all been in those situations, and find kind of more of an ethical way to do that and to have good communications about it. That's going to make a good contractor.
I love that.
That's awesome. And that sounds like playing the long game. Like you're not burning that customer out and scamming them on, oh, this is the price, but oh, this wasn't included. This wasn't included. You need this. You need this. Yeah, getting out of that, man. That sounds good.
That sounds real good. Brandon, this was awesome. I feel like we need to do a part 2. I there's so much more I want to ask you, but it's like, unless we had a 2.5 hour episode and Brandon's like, you guys didn't schedule me for that long, I've got work to do. So
we go to Utah, we get on a roof, and we figure out, he teaches us how to repair something.
Is there some, we should do the podcast from up on a roof. Would that be the first contractor podcast? It was done on a roof. We'll look this up and then we'll figure out if that's what's going on.
Yeah, let's get like a kitchen table up there, mics, everything. I'm down. Sign me up. Set it up. Let's go.
I love it. Brandon, thanks so much, man. We appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you guys.
Way to go.